SpeedTrack, and welcome to my channel, and welcome to my website. My name is Daryl, and this is Programming in Any Language. The website is www.black-duck.com. It's where you'll find all my videos organized in logical order. And this is the SpeedTrack. The SpeedTrack is a series of short videos designed to get you to create a meaningful application very quickly. Well, the form is ready, almost. You will find that when programming, your code commonly refers to objects and variables that you have named. At least we hope you've named them. Visual Studio, or C#, names the objects for you, but they don't mean much. When you add a text box to a form, it's typically called text box 1 or text box 2 or text box 3, depending upon the sequence of your adding the object. When you are deeply in the heart of coding, adding a price and a quantity together to get a total amount and then getting ready to display that amount on a label, it makes sense to have the label named something like lblTotalAmount or TotalAmountLabel. Label 1, Label 2, Label 3 have no real meaning in your code. A proper name is going to help. Another thing you're going to learn is that the IDE you are writing your code in has something called Intellesense. What's Intellesense? Well, it's kind of like messaging on your phone. It tries to guess what your words actually are going to use. In fact, you're about to move something to a label and you type an L and then a B and then another L. Intellesense lists all the objects that have names beginning with LBL. Generally, it's spot on or really, really close. You just pick it and go. And you use it more and more. I guarantee you'll like it. Now in this video, you won't see Intellesense in action. But in all the videos that follow where you are entering code, you will see it. This time we're going to enter those names so it'll make use in Intellesense. I'll cover that in more detail when we get there. For now, let's check out this short video which goes through the process of naming all our objects. Take a look. Okay. Before we do any coding now, we want to be able to work with these particular pieces of code, these objects in code. And right now, they're called something ridiculous. Like this particular button here is called, if we go up here into the naming area, it's called button 8. And this one is called, let's just put a highlight on this thing. This one is called button 9. Not very meaningful when you're working with code. You want to give them names that you'd like to be able to use. Same with you don't have to worry too much about the number of records, the ending database, enter data here, because we're never going to access these things in code. But the label we're going to put output in. The text box we're going to put input in. The list box we're going to put output in, so it needs a name. Right? Let's call list box 1. We'll make that change. And all these buttons we're going to be pressing and using in code. They're going to do something special. So we've got to give them all names. I like to use Hungarian notation in the way I code. You can use camel casing. There's a number of different methods you can use. I use Hungarian notation because I can actually put down BTN for button in the part of the name, and later on when I'm using Intellesense and writing code, the computer suggests to me what the name is that I'm looking for, and it'll give me a list of these things. I can click on them rather than going back and looking at my notes. So I'm going to jump right in here and go into the add button right away. I'm going to call this BTN add. BTN with a capital ADD. Then I'm going to do the same thing with edit. We're going to call it BTN EDIT. And notice I'm lowercasing the prefix BTN, and I'm uppercasing the delete word or the edit word or whatever. So we'll call this one BTN delete. And this one's going to be BTN clear. And this one is going to be BTN LOAD, load. And BTN SAVE. And BTN EXIT. Then we're going to say BTN update, and we're going to say BTN cancel. Now we've got names for these guys. List box, we're going to call it LBX stuff. LBX for list box. You can make up the abbreviation you want. Then I'm going to call it stuff. We're going to put anything in here. We can call it LBX anything if we want, but stuff's a good word too. The text box right here, that's going to be taking our input, so we can call it something that's meaningful, that would make some sense. And one of those words might be txt add, because we're going to add things into this thing. We could also call it txt in, but text add sounds good. So we're going to go out here and we're going to call this, right now it says text box 1. Makes much more sense to call it txt for text box, and then call it add. And up in here in the label, we're going to be calling this guy our LBL record count. So we'll We'll go to what's called label 2 right now. We're going to call it LBL, and then we're going to say record count. And we know what it means when we look at it in code. And that allows us to do anything we want to actually make this thing work and we make it process. So once we've got that in place, now we can actually do our coding and all our words will be there. So you want to kind of do this first. You want to name all your objects in code first. If you forget an object, that's not a problem. You can always add it later and give it a name later. But before you do any coding, you want to make sure it has a name. Pretty simple procedure. No magic, just us giving everything we will use in code a good name. Note that I talked about and used Hungarian notation as a naming convention. It was developed by Microsoft many years ago. It has fallen out of favor for some programmers, but that's simply an opinion. An alternative is camel casing. That naming convention is also widely used, and it's a good one too. The thing is, when you're working for a company, they will typically have something called a shop standard. It's the rules they want you to follow when you code programs. When working for that company, you'll typically be asked to follow that shop standard. Why? Well, the reason for that is they want all their code to be similar enough so that any programmer working in the company can pick up any code and be pretty comfortable with the way it's been written. When you are writing code for yourself, you can do anything you want. The computer will obey you. It's not a problem. The thing is, it makes a lot of sense to follow a standard early and develop your style of programming. Yeah, you'll probably have to modify it later depending upon where you will be working. But you will find that most shop standards have a lot in common with one another. Okay, that's it for now. Let's be back here and start coding in the next video. See you next time. Thanks for watching. If you get a chance, please subscribe. We'll see you in the next video. Take care.